Hi everyone, working nights now, so just about to start my night shift, and I would say that this is a very different hospital from the hospital that I was working in, I think about 5 days ago when I made my last post. This is the newest addition to the torturing paraphernalia that we take around with us. And as what's expected of me and what it is now to be a healthcare professional is dramatically changing, I actually feel more and more galvanized to find a way of weaving in these multiplicity of different narratives and ways of viewing this current situation. And it's beautiful to see that is really happening out there in the world more generally. So I thought maybe I'd just start this post. There's a lot of very inspiring things that are happening in our collective virtual consciousness in the era of social distancing. And I caught this one post on Facebook, an imagined letter to COVID-19, which I think has gone a little bit viral. So I thought maybe I'll just read that to begin with. An imagined letter to COVID-19, to humans, to stop. Just stop. It is no longer a request, it is a mandate, and I will help you. I will bring the supersonic high-speed merry-go-round to a halt. I will stop the planes, and the trains, and the schools, and the malls, and the meetings, and the flurried rush of illusions and obligations that keep you from hearing our single and shared beating heart. The ways we breathe together in union, our obligations to each other that have always been there, even if and even though we may have forgotten. We will interrupt the broadcasts, the endless cacophony of divisions and distractions to bring you this long breaking news. We are not well. None of us. All of us are suffering. Last year, the firestorms that scorched the lungs of the earth did not pause, nor the typhoons, nor the fevered climates in India and Japan. And we have not been listening because it is hard to listen when we are so busy with the bustle and the commodification. And it goes on. So let's keep on weaving alternative perspectives in this incredibly exceptional time. And I'm very interested, day by day as I face what I will face at work, the suffering and the difficulty. Will I also be able to maintain and honor alternative perspectives? So we've deconstructed this system in this kind of 1 week period. The government has taken power and devolved it from the market forces, which has largely dictated the structure of our society since we decided upon laissez-faire libertarian economics, kind of from the post-industrial time, I suppose, and particularly from the 1970s onwards. And all of a sudden, overnight, we've completely resuscitated the welfare state, right? Rishi Sunak announces that the government will pay 80% of our wages for the coming 3 months. And we've completely reversed the commonly held view that benefits produce a tide of worklessness and welfare dependency. And instead, it's a morally culpable act to go to work if you don't absolutely have to. And the greatest moral good is to stay at home with your family and watch TV. You know, overnight, the government's taken back power from the corporations, and we find ourselves in amidst the grips of a benevolent dictator. And I would argue that that benevolent dictator is one very, very small agency of the Department of Health and Social Services, also known as Public Health England. You know, they rule now, almost with an iron fist, an authoritarian fist. In this exceptional time, what precedent do we have to challenge their public health advice? That advice has gone beyond advice, right? And if you go to their website and if you read what their mission is, Public Health England's mission is to protect and improve the nation's health and to address inequalities. A very humanitarian mission, right? We now exist in a humanitarian, benevolent dictatorship. Something to that effect. There's so many interesting narratives there. You know, because as a climate change activist, as a person deeply concerned about planetary health, and this need to start valuing the health of our planet, because without it, there is no human health. We've constantly come up against this view that the hyper-industrialized capitalist model cannot be challenged, cannot be taken apart. And not in the name of human health. Because if we really cared about human health, really cared, as we're demonstrating that we do right now, we wouldn't allow that model to continue. You know, human health is planetary health. Planetary health refers to the health of the human civilization and the state of the natural world, which it depends. And actually, of course, as a concept and as an understanding, a collective and embedded understanding, it's existed throughout human civilization. I think the actual term was coined by a collaboration between the Rockefeller Foundation and the Lancet in about 2015. As a direct response to the emergence of this kind of understanding or concept of the Anthropocen's epoch. And an epoch being a geological measure of time, a particular geological time in our geological history, which is defined by particular forces. And the Anthropocene is a proposed geological epoch which followed the Holocene. And apparently the Holocene started, I don't know, some like 12,000 years ago, when the glaciers and the ice started to reduce. And then I guess what's been argued in the last however many 20 years by many geologists is that we've now left the Holocene and we've moved into the Anthropocene, which probably dates back since post-industrial times, like 1870 or something. And they argue now that the single greatest force acting upon our planet is humans. And we transform the earth in the same way that previous climatic stages would have influenced the kind of geological structure of the earth. Through activities, I suppose, through our mining, our urbanization, our agriculture, greenhouse gases, the acidification of the ocean, the loss of biodiversity due to human activity and habitat encroachment. And those consequences, of course, are not just limited to anthropogenic climate change. they're far extending. Many of the homeostatic systems of the earth are now collapsing. And planetary health is a response to this arbitrary definition that has led us to draw a distinction between human civilization and the natural world, which has probably ultimately fueled, of course, the ecological destruction of the Anthropocene epoch. And I think, it's just fascinating, isn't it, that this pandemic, which has just completely slashed our economy, we are no longer economic, more or less. Does market value exist anymore? Are there such thing as shares? Today I was like, couldn't find my headphones, and I thought I needed to buy some. And then the second thought I had was like, can we still do that? Is that a thing? Can we still buy stuff? That's amazing. Within a week. And we've seen this dramatic reduction, right, in localized air pollution and greenhouse gas emissions. I think it was Climate Brief, which basically said that during the lockdown in China, which has, I guess, been about the last 3 months, there's a 25% reduction in carbon dioxide emissions. And of course, like societies like the World Meteorological Society, I think a lot of people are a little bit reluctant, for obvious reasons, to really shout about this, because it looks like you're downplaying the health impact of the pandemic. But I think we need to acknowledge this and talk about it really openly, and acknowledge that will also have amazing health benefits. And I think the real question that it begs for us, now that we need to start asking, is now that we've partially or almost wholly dismantled a system that was responsible for mass ecological destruction and was going to quite clearly lead, and is leading and has led, to a health crisis. When the COVID pandemic comes to an end or tails off, do we really need to rebuild the system as it was before? And if we do that, are we not rebuilding it in the full knowledge that we are once again condemning ourselves to another planetary health crisis? Can I leave it there because I have medical handover for my night shift in about 5 minutes. Okay, be well.